Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to continue with our lectures on Chitta-Rupas, and I have given a new handout. The topic would be an analysis on Chitta-Rupas. So we know that we have studied about a group of Rūpa that are produced by the consciousness, and we call it mind-born matter or Chitta-Rupas. Ja represents that is produced, so by Chitta, the matter that is produced or produced by Chitta or born due to Chitta. And so far we have discussed what are these Chitta-Rupas and what are the consciousnesses that are responsible in producing them. Then we also talked what types of kalapas are produced by these Chitta-Rupas and how they are found in our day-to-day lives. And also we focused on certain physical aspects such as smiling, crying, dancing and so forth that can be done either with wholesome or unwholesome consciousnesses based on the nature of the activity. Crying can be done only with unwholesome consciousness, and smiling can be done with various types of consciousnesses. And then we moved on to discuss one of the most prominent Chitta-Rupas, Kaya Viññati and Vaci Viññati, bodily intimation and verbal intimation, how they facilitate or modify our physical activities and speech based on the intention of the person. And now we move on to another new, interesting but a lengthy topic called an analysis on Chitta-Rupas. This is something that I wanted to talk because there is a Sinhalese thing that I couldn't translate, so I'll take this out. It was a mistake actually to leave that on that place. Today I'm going to talk about functions of Chitta-Rupas. Now we are going to analyze Chitta-Rupas in terms of the functions they perform. What types of functions are done by these Chitta-Rupas. So if you go to the paragraph 2.157, Chitta-Rupas are one of the fundamental and vital groups of matter in the bodies of living beings. It performs various functions. Following are some of the imperative functions. So under the functions of Chitta-Rupas, we have categorized five types. One is maintaining or sustaining bodily postures. So Chitta-Rupa is relevant for the sustenance, to sustain the bodily postures or maintain them without the body falling down or unable to maintain the postures. Then deliberately changing bodily postures. When we move our limbs and change our postures, we do it with intention. So that Chitta-Rupas are required for these movements and deliberate changes. Then we can call them maintaining bodily postures and changing them during a non-human obsession. That's a very interesting topic. Sometimes according to our teachings, non-humans possess the living bodies of living beings, and they then starts to take the control over the living being, the entire control over the living being, and the living being starts to work like a puppet of the non-human. And it's a very controversial topic in terms of objective analysis, but anyway, according to Buddhist teachings, the non-humans have the capacity to take over the control of the mind and the body of another person, but it cannot be done with every human. If the human is quite weak due to certain defilements or due to weakness of his karma, that is possible. So how the Chitta-Rupas would act on such occasions? It's a very interesting topic. Then breathing, salivation and mouth watering and sweating. So these are all three. Seems like involuntary actions, but there are things to be analyzed in this topic, because Chitta-Rupas are, according to the tradition, are greatly connected. Like our mouth starts to water when we have a desire to eat something, and when we also experience sweating when our mind is in a distress mood or a low mood, and sometimes and breathing happens automatically even we are not aware of that. We have talked about that previously, but here also we are going to do an analysis on this. Bringing comfort and inflicting torment upon the body of living beings. This can be done, this can be seen when someone enters into a jhana, a very high concentration. At that time we can see the comfort that is experienced by the yogi in any meditation. And also when the mind is regretting on something or especially worrying on something, when someone misses someone or something, at that time the mind inflicts a certain torment, torments the body. It's not something the mind does, but because of that unpleasant mind, the body would get affected. Then now we move on to the first topic, maintaining and sustaining bodily postures. Maintaining and sustaining bodily postures, and then deliberately changing the bodily postures. So these are the two topics we are going to discuss today. Maintaining. Maintaining bodily postures. This topic is discussed under two main postures, that is standing and sitting. Sitting without leaning on anything, without leaning on something, just sitting. Like when we meditate, most of the time we don't lean on something, we just keep our back straight. When we stand, normally we don't lean on anything. So then while maintaining these postures, the thing is we are able to do some other activities without focusing on them. So according to the mind-body interaction in dualism, when we have the intention to do something, body moves according to the desire of the consciousness. That's one of the basic components of dualism. And mind is capable of making an effect upon the body. So the body behaves based on the mind or the consciousness. So the thing here is, now it's understandable when we walk. Walk means when we purposefully stand, or when we purposefully sit with an intention to maintain the posture. So when the mind wants to do something, the body behaves according to this. So when I want to walk, I have intention to walk, then the body moves. When I want to stand, there's intention, the body erects, and then we are able to stay still. And the same thing happens with the sitting. Lying down is not a significant posture in this regard, because when we are lying down, our body is held by the surface upon which we lie. So therefore, the three postures we are going to analyze, but in under the topic of maintaining the postures, because walking, you can say we maintain the walking, but actually it's a activity that is always changing. We are always in movement. We are always deliberately changing our body. So with every movement of the step. Therefore, when we say maintaining, when we intend maintain, we are only focusing on maintaining the standing and sitting postures. So it's also understandable when someone maintains the posture deliberately with the intention, because according to the mind-body interaction theory of dualism, when the mind intends, the body moves. Body behaves according to the mind. So when we want to keep our body in one position, intentionally we want to keep it, the body would behave according to that. So there is a interaction. We will not be able to explain logically how it happens, but that is something observable in terms of dualism. Then the thing is, even while we are doing some other activities, we are still able to maintain these two postures. For example, that means we are not paying attention to the posture. So we may be able to walk while doing something else, or talking with someone. We'll be able to stand. We'll be able to stand, not walking. We'll be able to stand while talking with someone else. We'll be able to stand and do a meditation. The same thing applies with sitting. So on those occasions, we are not constantly being aware of our posture. So if we are supposed to maintain our posture deliberately as we move our body, because in order to move the body, we shall talk it in another few minutes, we need the intentional effort should be there. And the Kaya Vinyati modifies the Vayu Dhatu according to the intention of the person's consciousness. So intentional effort is necessary in order to change the postures, even to lift the finger of the hand. Even to make the slightest changes in the body, there should be an intentional effort produced by the consciousness. But if you are supposed to maintain our posture, like for example, now I came into a standing posture and I'm doing something and I'm well focused on that activity, how would the bodily posture be maintained? Are we supposed now, when we make the movements, yes, every movement we are making a deliberate attempt. But we stand and meditate, for example, we normally does not pay any attention about our posture. While we are well focused on something else, the posture maintains. That's the point here. So there's a slight difference here. When we are making a deliberate change of the bodily postures, when we do it deliberately or intentionally, voluntarily, that time the focus has to be the activity. So our mind has to focus on this, right? So that's another issue that when we talk about the karmas, because our attention has to be the movement that we are going to make. So how could some philosophical thoughts would be integrated with this attention? That's another thing that we will discuss when we come to the topic of karma. But anyway, now the difference is when we are making a deliberate movement of where we have a focus on that particular activity, but when we are maintaining the posture, yes, we can do it with full focus. We can intentionally hold our body, but at the same time, while we are immersed in another activity, when our mind is plunged into another activity, but still our bodily postures remain. We are able to sustain them without paying attention. So there's the slight difference. So what happens is, now imagine if this is a person who is sitting, his consciousness is focused on something else. For example, he is meditating. But his bodily posture of sitting remains. It remains as it is, it remains erect. They are not paying attention to his body. So according to Theravada teachings, while the mind is focusing on something else, at the same time, some rupas are produced all over the body. So this consciousness produces rupas in the entire body. These rupas are with abundant vayu. Vayu is capable of holding something. When vayu is there, things can remain stable. Its function is to uphold something. When a wall is going to fall down, we can keep a backup or a support, and we can hold the wall. So likewise, vayu holds things, doesn't let the things to fall down. So what happens is the entire body is filled with a certain type of vayu produced by the consciousness which have a different attention. Now when we walk, our attention, intention, everything is to lift our body, and there is the Chittaja Rupas are produced based on this intention, and they are modified by Kaya Vinyati according to the intention. That's the difference. So here, while we are having, our mind is having a different, our mind is having a different object. When our mind is having a different object, at that time, we are capable of maintaining our bodily posture. So that's the difference here. We have been discussing on. Now here what happens is, when someone is immersed in focused on something else, such as meditation or talking with someone, we'll still be able to maintain the posture without breaking it. So what happens is, these consciousnesses that are involved in some other activity are capable of producing certain Chittaja Rupas that would maintain or uphold the posture. That would uphold the posture. So that is the function, because the thing is, if we are to focus or maintain our posture deliberately all the time, we will not be able to give a talk with someone attentively or to meditate attentively, because this would always disrupt our attention towards the activity we are doing. But in day-to-day life, we don't see such interruption, because we are not going to get disturbed by maintaining our postures while we talk or do some other activity. Especially when we are in meditation, sitting meditation and standing meditation, if the concentration is very high, we will be able to stand still while we are focused on the meditation subject, right? While we are focused on the meditation subject. So then, so another point is, while we are maintaining, then another thing to prove, now to bring an argument for this phenomenon is, when we, now for instance, while we are standing or sitting, if we happen to fall asleep, for whatever reason, if we happen to fall asleep, the bodily posture would not be maintained. The body starts to fall down. So this shows a great linkage between the consciousness, the nature of the consciousness, and maintain the bodily postures, according to Theravada teachings. So this meditating mind has to be an active consciousness, either wholesome or unwholesome or functional, or it has to be a javana chitta at least. So then it will be able to maintain this posture, including the manodvara, vajjana, and few other consciousness are also capable, like the Vattapana and so forth. So they are able to maintain the posture. So if this mind falls into the bhavanga stream, bhavanga is unable to maintain the posture. So what happens? This bodily posture collapses. The bodily posture collapses. So that is another important point to be understood with regard to Chittaja Rupas in Theravada teachings. So if we read the handout, maintaining bodily postures. Living beings possess the ability to maintain their sitting and standing postures for extended periods, even without leaning on anything. So even without leaning, we are able to maintain the posture. They can sustain these postures effortlessly, such as when conversing with someone while standing without actively focusing on the posture. Deliberately maintaining posture can be challenging and distracting from other activities, like deliberately maintain posture. If you are able to deliberately maintain the posture, then it can be distracting for other activities. So we can maintain the posture with a different attention. That's what is mentioned in the previous sentences. We are able to maintain the posture. There is no deliberate intention of maintaining. We are focused on something else, but the posture is maintained. So if we are to deliberately maintain the postures, this can be really distracting, because we will not be able to converse with someone with full attention, or will not be able to focus in our breath or meditation object. According to Theravada teachings, consciousness involved in specific verbal and physical actions not only generate mind-born matter for the relevant act, but also produces Chittaja Rupas that uphold the bodily posture arranged by preceding consciousness. That's a very important point. So these now, for instance, imagine I'm giving a lecture while standing. So my Chittaja Rupas are mainly involved in this activity of speaking or moving my hands or making the deliberate movements. And I'm also actively thinking, what should I be telling? Then at the same time, this consciousness, while it is producing Chittaja Rupas for these relevant activities, it also produces Chittaja Rupas that is capable of maintaining the posture. So this is what is important. So otherwise we can also say, while the Chittaja Rupas are involved in doing the activity, those relevant Rupas are also capable of maintaining the postures. We can bring all these two arguments. It means now when we are doing something while standing, so the entire Chittaja Rupas are well focused on this activity. Chitta is focused on activity. At the same time, those Chittarupas that are involved in doing the activity are also capable of maintaining the postures. That's one way of saying. Or otherwise we can say when the consciousness is producing certain Chittarupas for the relevant activity, some other rupas are also produced together with it that can maintain the posture. Whatever it is, the takeaway message is, the point is, the highlighted point is, the bodily postures will be maintained regardless of the attention of the person. Right? Regardless of the attention of the person. According to Theravada teachings, consciousness involved in specific verbal and physical actions not only generates mind-born matter for the relevant act, but also produces Chittarupas that uphold the bodily posture arranged by preceding consciousnesses. The same applies to mental activities like meditation. The meditating mind produces Chittarupas that support the posture. So in meditating, yes, we don't have any deliberate activity doing, physical or verbal activities done. So it's well focused on a certain object. At the same time, this consciousness produces Chittarupas all over the body that would maintain the posture, arranged by the preceding consciousness. Then, how do we understand this? What is the logic? We also discussed on this. Whenever the consciousness falls into the Bhavanga stream, the posture will be broken. Broken means the body falls down. Right? How do we understand that consciousness maintains postures on such occasions? In the instances mentioned, if a person falls asleep, they lose their sitting and standing posture. According to Theravada, more Bhavanga Chittas arise during sleep, and only Bhavanga Chittas occur during deep sleep. So, in our sleep, there are various stages of our sleep. So, during sleep, we sometimes see dreams even. And also there's a lucid sleep. Not lucid, it's called I forgot the name for that. There's a certain sleep that is not very deep. There are specific stages of sleep. So on these occasions, various consciousnesses do arise taking various objects. But in deep sleep, only the Bhavanga Chitta occurs according to the teachings. So what happens is, now during sleep, most of the time Bhavanga Chittas arise, and during deep sleep, only Bhavanga Chittas arise. Maintaining straight sitting or standing postures is not possible during Bhavanga Chittas. It's not possible to maintain straight erect postures when the Bhavanga Chitta is arising, indicating, according to Theravada fundamentals, the direct connection between consciousness and bodily posture. So at least we can come into some sort of logical argument saying that nature of the consciousness, if consciousness is existing, objectively speaking, nature of the consciousness matters in maintaining the postures, because when it goes into the drowsy, sleepy state, it's unable to maintain the posture. That's why our heads fall and our body, we lose our bodily postures when we are very drowsy or when we suddenly fall into a sleep. Sometimes even we may fall down from the posture that we were in. According to Abhidhamma, consciousnesses except for Patisandhi Chitta, Bhavanga Chittas, Chuti Chitta according to Mula Tika, they do not produce any Chitta Rupas. Panchadvara Vajjana Chitta, they do produce, but they are unable to maintain the postures. Two Sampatichana and three Santirana Chittas, while performing Santirana function, can maintain bodily postures in the cannot maintain. Sorry, you have to. There should consciousness except these. Sorry, correct. Consciousnesses except these consciousness can maintain bodily postures. The sentence is correct. Beg your pardon. Consciousness except Patisandhi, Bhavanga Chuti, Panchadvara Vajjana, Sampatichana and Santirana. All the other consciousnesses are capable of maintaining the bodily postures in the Panchavokara realm. The remaining consciousness can uphold postures producing Chittarupas with abundant Vayu. They do so by producing Chittarupas with abundant Vayu. That's how they maintain the posture. Even these consciousness will not maintain the posture during certain physical weaknesses. That's also obvious. When we have certain physical weaknesses, though the mind is active, the body would not respond to that. The body would not respond to that. I myself had that experience when I got the hemiplegic migraine in last October. So the entire half of the body got paralyzed to a certain time, and the mind was very active. It knew what is going on, and it wanted to deliberately make the movements, but the body was not reacting. The half of the body, the entire left hemisphere, was not responding. Only the right side was working, and it lasted for like maybe 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. And the thought comes that you are how would a paralyzed person would feel. You feel like you are stuck in something because your mind is active. It wants to communicate. It wants to respond to the stimuli from the outside, but the body was not reacting to this. It was completely numb, and that was a temporary thing that happens. One of the special variants of migraine, very rare one. Hemiplegic migraine, but if the damage is permanent, if it was a real stroke or some actual thing has happened in the body, then it would be a really hard experience for someone to live with it, because the consciousness is active, the body would not respond. So that it almost fell down, because when the one half was completely numb. So what happens is, even these consciousnesses, according to Theravada teachings, even these consciousnesses, they have the capacity to maintain the bodily postures. But though they have the capacity to maintain the bodily postures, if there is a physical weakness, a strong weakness, these consciousnesses would not be able to perform, do their under their full capacity. So they will not be able to maintain the postures. And also while dreaming, during dreams these consciousnesses happen, but a person is very unlikely he would maintain a sitting or a standing posture. Even those consciousnesses arise during the dreaming period, right? So the takeaway message is maintaining bodily posture. Yes, deliberately thinking the bodily postures can be maintained, that's not a surprise. That's not a surprise, and that is very easily observable. But here the point is, when our mind is immersed in some other activity, still the main posture will be properly maintained, and we also can see it in our day-to-day activities, right? Then Chitta Rupas are unnecessary to maintain the lying down posture, as the entire body is supported by the surface it lies upon. That's obvious, that's nothing to explain. Then deliberately change in the posture. Now under the topic of deliberately maintaining the postures, we have 4 subcategories. So that's why I said this analysis on Chitta Rupas is a very vast topic. I'll be taking it for a few weeks, and it's quite interesting. We'll be talking various departments in our lives, and you'll be surprised that the Buddhism Theravada teachings can be extended into in such arenas even, right? So what are the 4 subcategories? There are a few instances in which beings deliberately change their physical postures. They can be listed as follows. This is not an exhaustive list, but things that I felt that we should be discussing about. Voluntary activities, instinctive reactions, habitual activities and activities done due to vasana, then acting with psychic powers, So I was unable to finish the handout, that's why the Sinhalese part remains, because this is a translation of the same fundamentals course that I'm doing in Sinhalese, because we are ahead in the Sinhalese class. So I take those parts and translate with the relevant changes. Then voluntary activities. Now maintaining the body. So we'll be talking about voluntary activities. Then instinctive reactions. Instinctive reactions means we sometimes do things out of a sudden as a response to the unexpected stimuli. And most of us think that it is done without any deliberate intention. But according to Theravada teaching, there is some deliberate involvement. So I'll be talking about that in next week separately. And sometimes we do things as a habit, like when a dog sees something very tasty that it likes, it suddenly plunges into it and starts eating. Sometimes children cannot restrain themselves when they see certain sweet things. So this can happen to adult person as well. So those are things, the habitual activities. And sometimes these habitual activities can be performed by even arahants who doesn't possess any defilement. In Puthujjanas, mostly these habitual activities are triggered by defilements. And also it can be due to the attachment to the life as well. And then sometimes deliberately we do physical activities with psychic powers. These activities we are unable to perform with our ordinary minds, like flying in the sky or going through a wall and so forth, right? So we'll be focusing on voluntary activities. Now voluntary activities, the point here is, it's obvious that if you want to make a voluntary movement, we make the attention, we have the intention, and we move the body. And the body behaves according to the consciousness. And that's one of the reasons why we get the idea of a doer, a person. There is a person inside who does these activities. There is certain misperception according to the teachings. Now, the thing here, voluntary activities. In voluntary activities, sometimes we are capable of continue with our activities while doing something else. For example, we may walk while talking. We may meditate while reciting. Right? We may meditate while reciting. So likewise, we are able to multitask in our day-to-day lives. Multitask. When you're multitasking, what's happening? According to the teachings, every deliberate activity is done with an intention, with chetana. So there is an involvement of consciousness, not mere involvement. Now maintain the postures are also done by the consciousness, but without a focus. We may focus on something else, the bodily posture is still maintained. But here, if it is a deliberate activity, each and every activity, for example, if I am grabbing something, in order to do that, I change the nature of the posture of my fingers every moment, and at the same time I move my hand. So there are minute changes that we do in performing a physical activity. So when we are walking also, we do make slight changes in our body. So all these activities are done with consciousness. The involvement of consciousness is a must. Otherwise the physical movements would not happen according to our intention. So if we zoom in, we can see that for every movement we had an intention. In our day-to-day work, when we do things very fast, we will not be able to recall this. That's because we are not very mindful and we are not very attentive about our consciousness while we multitask. So now here the point is, even though it seems like the consciousness is doing two things at the same time, or in the consciousness some activities are done without any attention, but what happens is, now for example, we may be chanting Metta Sutta while thinking about something else, what happened to us, or something that we are expecting to happen, or about someone whom we are thinking to meet, or whatever. So while we are reciting the Metta Sutta, our mind may be wandering in some other activity. It mostly happens when we are walking. If we are not very mindful about our walking activity posture, the activity, our mind is mostly wandering on something else, something that we recently did, or something which is strongly stuck in our mind, or something we are planning to do. Normally our mind jumps from object to object, and it is happy to wander in certain objects. So what happens is, Even though the mind is taking some different object at that moment, every physical activity is done attentively. Momentary attentiveness is there. In the general sense, we are not attentive and we are not able to recall it. That's a different case. We are not able to recall each and every moment we did our walking. If we walk 200 steps, we will not be able to recall how we change our fingers, how we kept the seconds each step, and what are the slight movements we did. We will not be able to recall it in the overall bigger picture, because we cannot have such detailed attentiveness. But if you go into each and every activity, if we watch this in a slow motion, we can see there was a slight intention. Slight intention is in modifying our bodily posture or changing our bodily posture. So therefore, even when we multitask, we do activities. When we multitask, each and every activity is a voluntary activity done with intention. So for example, if we do 100 activities, if certain activities are regarding walking, related to walking, the other activities are related to thinking something else. So it seems when we recall back, we feel like we have been thinking something else and we are unable to recall how we walked. For example, if we were sad about something, we were thinking about it and starts walking, we remember the sadness of our mind. It's very difficult to recall how we made efforts in each step while walking for 200 steps, for instance. So therefore, in the overall recalling capacity, we may not be able to recall every activity, but on all those occasions, each and every physical movement was deliberately done. What is the reason? The mind is very rapid. It arises and passes very quickly, very instantly. As soon as it arises, it immediately vanishes. Another consciousness would follow. It would vanish. So likewise, this keeps on going, continues. So due to this rapidness, due to this fastness of the consciousness, the short lifespan of the consciousness, at a shorter period, the consciousness is capable of doing many tasks. But it is not possible for one consciousness to multitask. It's not possible. It seems like we have been doing two activities at the same time, though we feel like that, or though we recall like that, according to Abhidhamma, each and every activity needs separate consciousnesses, fully dedicated to that. Fully dedicated, fully focused on, because this is deliberate activity. Changing of postures, physical changes that we are doing. But in the previous explanation, while the mind is involved in a certain activity, automatically it is capable of maintaining the posture. That's the two differences here. These are the two differences here. It is capable of maintaining the postures while involved in some other activity. But in the multitasking, every task is done with a specific intention, with the intention of the mind. So this is another point. So on all these occasions, in every activity, Chittaja Rūpas are involved and they produces the relevant activity. Walking is a voluntary activity. It will not occur with consciousnesses focused on something else. No, you cannot walk if the consciousness is not well focused on walking. It involves intentional leg movement, with the object of consciousnesses being the legs used for walking. So if you are walking, the object should be the legs. The physical power needed to walk is derived from the Vayu element produced by consciousnesses involved in walking, Chitta Kiriya Vayu. The Raya element is modified by Viññati, Kaya Viññati based on the intention of the consciousnesses. It is evident that we can walk while engaging in other activities or even meditating. In simple terms, we can multitask. In such instances, consciousnesses dedicated to other activities or meditation arise between processes of walking consciousnesses given the rapid arising and passing nature of consciousness. So this is what is happening. Now, certain consciousnesses are involved in walking, while certain mind processes are involved in walking, dedicated for the walking. Some consciousnesses are involved in thinking something else, like meditating or wondering something happened, analyzing a situation, right? Thinking what I'll be giving for the coming lecture. So consciousnesses do happen. Since given the rapid nature of consciousness, this is possible. So what happens is, with these consciousnesses, we walk. With these consciousnesses, we plan, for instance. If you are going to a lecture, on the way, sometimes we plan. This is what I'm going to teach today. So you cannot walk with the planning consciousness. You cannot plan with the walking consciousness. That's another point that we have to understand. This shows that the consciousness is rapidly changing, and the impermanent doctrine can be illustrated here, right? So this the multitasking always happens with separate consciousnesses dedicated for relevant separate activities. It is evident that we can walk while engaging in other activities or even meditating. In such instances, consciousnesses dedicated to other activities or meditation arise between processes of walking consciousnesses, given the rapid arising and passing nature of consciousness. According to Theravada teachings, lifting and stretching a leg involve thousands of chittas arising and passing away in a brief moment. So it involves thousands of chittas, for example, in order to lift and move a leg. Right, move a leg. Some focus on the physical movement, while others engage in different activities or meditate. So when we are walking, when we are making this walk, when we are doing this walk, millions of consciousness arises. So now all these are taken as the consciousnesses, millions of consciousness. So in this entire process, some are dedicated for walking, while some are dedicated for planning or meditating. Some focus on the physical movement, while others engage in different activities or meditation. Thus, walking is a deliberate act done with consciousness dedicated to walking. So walking cannot be done during planning by planning consciousness. Planning cannot be done with walking consciousness. This intentional focus applies not only to walking but also other voluntary activities like stretching hands and legs, rotating the head, looking around, eating, drinking, and driving. So what I mean is, in general, when we do such things, we do many tasks at the same time. So this is the same phenomenon going on. Consciousness during these activities mirror that of walking while engaging in other tasks or meditating. The phenomenon of the mind wandering while reciting a sutta in which one is well versed, and deep contemplation during such recitation is akin to what was discussed earlier. It's similar to what have been discussed so far. During these instances, akusala and kusala chittas arise, taking various objects and engaging in meditation or contemplation in between the consciousnesses reciting the sutta. So while the consciousness is reciting, at the same time, some consciousnesses can involve in deep meditation or contemplation, and that a person will be able to attain higher states even during such a recitation. So in multitasking or physical activities, voluntary activities, every voluntary activity is done with intentional effort while maintaining the postures. It happens even while we are involved in our focus is something else. So next day I'm going to talk about instinctive reactions, then habitual activities and activities done due to vasana, kilesa, which will be another interesting topic for us. So I conclude the lecture, giving the opportunity to ask questions.
May I ask my question? My question is mainly related with not with these lessons. Maybe it's the past lessons, last week lessons. Now, when we read the stanza, even if we have not heard that reciting of that stanza, due to that metrical arrangement, well arranged in metric using meters like iambus meters, so total or something like that, when we read it, it is powerful enough to create a devotional confidence in us. Even if we have not heard the sound of that stanza, it's very powerful, and I think some stanzas may create devotional confidence even in celestial beings also. My question is it due to Vachi Vinyati or Kaya Vinyati?
You mean the confidence, emotional confidence that we get when we are listening to something? Like you need to explain me, like what for example, like we may not know the meaning of what is being recited. So it can happen with any song or anything that is uttered, right? So we are not we don't know what it means, but what it means, but we get some kind of a emotional boost or strength. A certain change happens in our body. Is it what you mean?
Yes.
So I don't think that's involved with Vachi Vinyati, because sometimes we have preferences. Our mind, we have different dispositions, we have different characters based on various reasons. So naturally, sometimes this can be observed as a general in a general scale as well, because most the attractive songs in the world are liked by most of the people because they find it mostly attractive. So based on the character and based on the preferences, when we hear a certain melodious sound arranged to a certain meter, yes, we may get some confidence. I think that's something, nothing related to vinyatis. For instance, even an AI recites this, we'll still get that emotional thing. But if there is now, sometimes such effects can happen when a certain portion of Dhamma or some part is recited by a specific person. Then our emotional aspect is not only focused on, not only is affected by the content or the melody of what is being uttered, but also the respect or the attitudes that we have towards the person who is reciting. Therefore, I think it's something psychological rather than involvement of a vinyati. I personally think that's how we react to the melody or the way of recitation, or the character of the person, or something in that scope, something which is psychological. I don't think it's related to Vachi Vinyati or Kaya Vinyati.
Thank you, Theravada. Very clear.
Okay, then we'll conclude the lecture. So today we talked about the maintaining of physical postures and deliberately changing them, especially the voluntary activities. So I hope you enjoyed the lecture, you had something useful, because this also shows that the non-self nature. So the consciousness is focused on something, at the same time it produces certain elements, and those elements are maintained in the posture. So this also shows the non-selfness, and we are not able to, the consciousness is not able to perform 2-3 activities at the same time. So each and every activity happens due to separate consciousnesses. So that also shows the impermanence as also the non-selfness of the mind. So may this discussion of Dhamma helps us to attain the ultimate happiness, and also for the sustaining of the Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.